All right, so we're just a couple minutes after 12:30. I think we'll get started now. Just wanted to thank everybody for joining. Just advance the slide here quickly as I get some housekeeping items identified. So on the call today, I'm joined by a few different staff members. Myself, I'm Michael Goodyear, responsible for the trail destination stream, which will be presented today. Also stakeholder or visitor experience across the country. Heidi Tillmans is also on the call. She'll be speaking to her specific funding stream related to infrastructure and signage. Tricia Kaplan's also on the call as well. She's coming from out west and will speak to the Indigenous accessibility streams and inclusion. And then Kristen Gabora also, she's here and will be able to speak to the trail care grants that are available. And she's also responsible for connection and roadway transition projects across the country. All their contact information was just up on the screen. However, it will be shared again through a follow-up email, so everyone is aware. There is closed captioning available through one of the icons found on your screen. Also, I wanted to bring attention that this is being recorded. So we will submit a follow-up email to everybody, which will not only have a link to the documents referenced here, but also the contact information for different staff members, as well as the provincial partners that we are working with in specific locations, and as well the recording of this presentation. There's no chat option available for participants, but feel free to submit questions in the Q&A portion at the bottom of your screen, and staff will do our best to answer them either during the presentation or if necessary, we'll follow up with information directly to you as an individual. There's also a few poll questions that'll be coming out through the presentation. So I just wanted to make mention of that. So when you see that pop up, please take a moment to provide a response to that and give us additional information that we'll be able to use moving forward to assist you guys in project implementation and other elements. All right, so the first slide coming up speaks to the actual agenda of the overall webinar itself. We'll provide some general updates on the budget itself. Also wanted to give some background on the Trans-Canada Trail as an organization for some of you who might be new contacts on this file, but also provide an update on our strategic plan, as many of you might be learning about this, again, as a new portfolio of responsibility. The main kind of draw about this is to speak to the available TCT funding streams, which we'll also get to as well, and then a little bit of information on how to go about applying for those different application or the different streams available, and then information on future webinars coming up as well. All right. So before I start off, I'd like to mention to you that I'm coming from the ancestral and treaty lands of the Mississaugas of Scugog Island First Nation, and acknowledge that this is the land in which I learn, work, and live. Also to acknowledge that the Trans-Canada Trail is situated on the traditional territories of First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people from coast to coast to coast. We would also like to acknowledge that the trail includes both land and water routes that were created and used both historically and presently by Indigenous people as seasonal and travel trade routes. All right, so again, just a little bit of background information for everybody on the Trans-Canada Trail in case you're new. We are a recreational trail that crosses the country. We're approximately 28,000 kilometers in length now, from coast to coast to coast. There are approximately 500 different sections of trail, meaning 500 different community organizations that we work with. And not only does it go through each and every territory and province, but we also connect with each of the capitals of those territories and provinces as well, which makes us very close and accessible to the majority of people across the country. You can see from the slide here, approximately 80% of all Canadians live within 30 minutes of the Trans-Canada Trail itself. From a structural standpoint, if you could, yeah, thank you. There are approximately 34 staff that work for the organization, and we also have extensive support from different provincial and territorial partners as well. We are currently under a renewal process to receive additional funding from the federal government, and I'll speak to that in a little bit greater detail afterwards. The organization itself, founded in 1992, really worked ambitiously towards the achievement of connection, which was obtained in 2017. Although it was obtained, we never made the assumption or had the belief that it would be complete. We always and we still have a continued effort and support to make the trail safer, more accessible, and more enjoyable for all of its visitors. And working towards that, after connection, we developed a new corporate strategy, which we're currently a part of right now. I'll speak to that in the next slide here, or coming up, pardon me. So the federal funding, very exciting news for us to not only be mentioned in a few different mandate letters, but also to be mentioned within the most recent budget. The renewal is for $55 million to the Trans-Canada Trail over a period of 5 years. This is really exciting, not only for us, but I think it's, wanted to recognize that this is also the support because of the excellent work that's been done, not only by the volunteers on the ground, the municipalities and other trail organizations across the country, but also the provincial partners that we've worked with, the different donors as well. This is really a recognition of everyone's acknowledgement of what a great resource that has been developed over time and the importance of protecting it into the future. Next slide, please. So as I mentioned, we worked at developing a strategic plan following the connection obtained in 2017. I'm not going to get into a lot of detail on this. This is available on the TCT website, and I encourage you to go there for additional information. We've broken it up into 6 different strategies for success. This was developed not in the silo by just TCT staff, but we also had extensive consultation done with our provincial and territorial partners, local organizations as well, industry stakeholders. So we wanted to make sure, or we did that in order to make sure that not only were we developing and working on a trajectory which we felt was appropriate, but also one which was supported by the entire trails community. One thing that is a little bit different, along with the digital element here, we are looking into the development of tourism initiatives as well, and also wanted to speak to the fact that we are working to develop resources and capacity building, not only for the Trans-Canada Trail Network itself, but also for resources that will be available to the greater trails community. There was some COVID guidelines developed earlier on in the pandemic, which TCT provided to the sector across the country, as well as the national classifications. And there will be additional efforts made, again, for kind of sector and capacity support into the future. Next slide, please. All right, at this point, I'm going to pass it over to Heidi in between the transition. If you could take a moment to respond to the poll that's up on the screen, that would be appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. And as everyone is taking the poll, I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Heidi Tillmans, and I'm your National Manager of Infrastructure and Signage for the Trans-Canada Trail. My primary role is to help and assist with large-scale infrastructure projects, along with any kind of signage projects that you may have across the country. So Janice, I believe you're handling the poll when you're done. Do we want to show results before we move on?
Sorry, just one moment. There's a few coming in still.
Okay, then. All right. Well, as we're waiting, I'll just currently go through our current funding programs that are available to you through TCT. Currently, what is open is the Trail Funding Program. This is in replacement of the Capital Improvement Program that many of you have been accustomed to in the past. It's very similar, where this is our large intake of applications pertaining to any trail infrastructure. So this would be bridge redecking, building, major repairs such as culverts and so forth. Trail signage, trail destination and development, which is the tourism sector application that Michael had made mention of. The accessibility and inclusion in trails, which Tricia is taking care of. And also she is also taking care of the Indigenous Communities initiatives. Also, oh, thank you for the poll. Great response, thank you. Youth Employment Funding Program and the Trail Care Grant, which happens in spring and fall. The spring is currently has closed, but fall will be reopening at the end of summer. So for trail infrastructure major repairs, what we're looking for are projects that increase and improve the quality and value of the network, improve the safety and comfort of users, ensure both the stability and integrity of the network, work to minimize the trail being closed or rerouted at any given time. These projects can include studies, planning, and construction phases, new trail construction, trail resurfacing, bridge construction and repairs, and as I mentioned, culverts, and any major projects that improve the safety of the trail. If you don't know if it applies, please reach out to any of our staff and we'll be able to assist you to make sure that you're eligible and that it qualifies for funding. Trail signage, my favorite. As many of you know, I originally was hired to be the signage manager across the country. So from the beginning, I've been taking care of the trail kiosks, trailheads, interpretive signs, cautionary warning, regulatory signs, custom wayfinding, kilometer markers, and planning and design, which is all what you can apply for in the signage program. Currently, you are welcome still to order the new TCT wayfinding at any given time during the year. But in regards to both the infrastructure and the signage applications, we're asking you to have those in by May 31st. And as in past years, for the wayfinding signage, all registered groups can apply and receive our single TCT logo wayfinders in various sizes, arrows, and also to funding for installation posts and hardware. For those, we do recommend that you use an aluminum product or stainless steel to assure that your signage is installed and rust doesn't become an issue. That application, like I mentioned, is open all year long, but we are asking all our groups that have not received the new TCT wayfinders to reach out and make sure that we do have everything re-signed by 2023. And I'll hand it over to my colleague, Trish.
Thanks, Heidi. Hi, everyone. I'm the National Manager, like my three colleagues here. I'm the National Manager of Programs and Inclusion Initiatives. And so I oversee our projects and initiatives across the country that relate to removing barriers for people who often face them when accessing the trail sector. So I'll talk about a couple of the programs here. So the first one is accessibility and inclusion in trails. So this is a grant stream that is really focused on supporting projects and initiatives that increase diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility along the trail. And so this can include anything from the planning side of things and doing studies on how accessible a trail is, or looking at your organization and looking at developing inclusion plans or diversity strategies. But it also looks at the actual physical trail and how to remove barriers that exist. In terms of the funding that's available, for organizational planning, studies, training for staff and volunteers, what's available is 35% of the total cost, up to $20,000. And for the physical trail projects, we're looking at 35% up to $50,000. If you're looking to remove a specific barrier or make a trail more accessible, for example, paving, we will ask you to look at the 360 view of the trail so that we're not in a position where we have a super accessible trail, but people can't actually get onto the trail. So yeah, next slide, please. So the next stream is Indigenous Communities, and this is really focused on projects and initiatives that are either led by Indigenous communities or that are being run in partnership with Indigenous communities. And it's focused less on the physical trail and trail projects and more on the cultural expression and transmission, protection and revitalization of language, like for example, lexicon projects, youth education, so teaching Indigenous youth how to build trails, how to steward them, and projects that relate to the legacy of colonization and former residential schools. So for example, there's quite a number of residential schools that were along what is now the Trans-Canada Trail, and so really looking at commemoration on acknowledgement and education. So the funding for this is the same as the funding for the last grant. So for organizational planning, studies, training, consultations, those types of things, it's 35% up to $20,000. And for trail projects, which essentially is implementation, it's 35% up to $50,000. The one thing that I do want to mention about this is if you're part of an Indigenous community that's looking to build a trail, like just to construct a trail, you would apply through the infrastructure grant. So you would be eligible for those same amounts, and that would be considered a trail project. So this really amounts to the cultural preservation and revitalization side of things. And I will hand it over to Michael.
Thank you, Tricia. So the next one I'll get into is around trail destination development. Similar to many of the other streams, there's always a planning as well as an implementation standpoint. So we do have funding available for efforts like visitor use management. If there is a need to assess the capacity for a certain area, for how many visitors would be appropriate to withstand without impacting the trail system or the surrounding environment, that would be eligible. Collecting data around any type of appropriate tourism indicators, and even the development of destination management plans or tourism master plans. So those are kind of the study components that would be available. But then also under the tourism infrastructure and experience or product development, this could really be considered the implementation of recommendations from those previous studies, or if there is a tourism strategy or master plan already on the books, then it would be the implementation of recommendations within that those documents as well. Similar to the other ones, this is a 35% match up to a $25,000 or $20,000 threshold. It is a little bit different in the sense that this is a new program, so that traditionally we've always engaged funding opportunities with the trail managers. However, in some cases, the visitor promotion or destination management plans are actually being administered by other organizations, whether it be government or municipalities or something. We will also work with those organizations to provide funding as well. So it's not just the traditional trail organizations that are eligible for this. I will also make mention that we have the national classification for multi-use trail. The components of that provide a difficulty ranking, a trail type, and for applicants of this particular stream, they would need to complete those two deliverables, as well as a short tourism readiness assessment. It's an automated system. It's quite easy to complete, but that is a prerequisite for completion of an application. But as with all the other streams, myself and the other TCT staff are available to support the completion of that and facilitation of any applications coming in. With that, I'm going to pass it over to Kristen Gabor, please. After this short poll question.
I'll maybe just introduce myself while we're waiting for the poll to take place. So I'm the National Manager, Infrastructure and Connection, as Michael said earlier. I oversee maintenance, the Trail Care Grant Program, as well as roadway experience, detours, reroutes, and of course extensions. So essentially I oversee anything directly affecting the connection of the trail network. Are we just about ready with the poll results?
Just a few more coming in. 20 more. All right, thanks, Kristen.
Excellent. We'll just give it a moment then. Great. Okay. So when applying for the trail funding program, we want to stress that although it at times can seem quite daunting, it's really not. It's quite a simple process. We have streamlined the application form and requirements and the guidelines to be very precise, to give us just exactly what we need and to make it much easier for applicants. And of course, we will stress it several times, or I will stress it several times through this. Please reach out. We are always here to help any one of us. So essentially, who can apply? Registered TCT network trail groups and municipalities. Also projects happening along the network that are working in collaboration with a registered trail group. So any one of those. And if in doubt, again, ask. How do you apply? Online. It's online and access through our website or the funding document links. That being said, if this does not work for you, we encourage you to please reach out. We have several other ways that we can assist you through that process. How to choose the proper stream? Please read the eligibility criteria. Sometimes projects fit under more than one stream, but they may fit better under a certain stream. So if in doubt, reach out to us. And as Tricia already said, certain things still, even though you may think they fit under one stream, truly fit under another. So please reach out to ensure it goes under the proper stream. What do I need to apply? So before entering the application form, there are a few things that you should really have in hand that'll make it just go that much quicker for you. So we would ask you to have a good description of your project, full budget, including where you're going to be receiving your matching funds from, a schedule, including all the phases of the timeframes, proof of insurance, some GIS information for where the project will take place. So we would prefer it be GIS, but if all you can provide us with is a map with a little red X on it, that will work too. We will work with that. We will help you any way we can. Assistance, do I need matching funds? Again, please refer to the guidelines. Some streams do require matching funds. Some streams vary in what they need for matching funds. So again, read the guidelines. Assistance, support, and applications, as I said earlier, we will help any way that we can to make the process work for you. So funding application steps, you will navigate, and we will go into a little bit more detail, but navigate to the trail funding program. And we ask you to please review the Trans-Canada Trail Funding 2022-2023 program framework. These are essentially your general guidelines for all streams. So we encourage you to read that stream. Then you will select the stream appropriate to your project, review those individual stream guidelines. You will complete an application form for the selected stream, and then you will receive a notification of funding status from TCT. And again, when in doubt, please reach out. So the funding application steps themselves, again, straightforward, very simple. This is what the form portal looks like when you get to it. And there's a big yellow button saying apply for funding. And there is a unique portal for each stream. So it won't be confusing. When you go into the guidelines, you can apply via the link right in the guideline that you are looking at. Other than that, again, separate links right on the portal page. Before you begin, it's important and a good idea to have the required information on hand. As I said, you will be asked for your good description, your budget, your timeline, your information on additional funds. Here's where you also may include other information, letters of support, project-specific documentation, For example, the classification results for the destination development component. Or you may have already completed a study and this is the construction phase and you wish to show us that you have your engineering in place or that you have completed this study. Archaeological studies, things like that. So everything can fit here. Also, pictures are worth 1,000 words. If you have a picture, please include it. We love to see them. And then we can use them as a before and after as well. So that is perfect. Any additional information, there may be some required that pops up as a result of the stream that you have chosen, or you may just wish to include extra information. We encourage you to phase your projects. If you have a large scale project, you have not begun the planning or study phase, we encourage you to do that first as a separate project, as opposed to going for the full study and planning and construction phase. And again, large scale signage projects will be separate from that. If you need assistance in deciding how this project should be divided, again, please reach out. Once you hit apply, you will receive notification that you have applied, and we are trying to ensure that applicants are notified of results in approximately a 2-month time frame. That's give or take a little bit. They go through them as fast as they can. Incomplete applications, unfortunately, we cannot review them until all documents are in. So we will reach out and tell you what is required in order to help your project go ahead, unless in the case of matching funds. If your project is approved, then we will ask you to comply with TCT's grant acknowledgement guidelines. So you will receive a sign to put up at the site that acknowledges TCT as the funder. I will pass it on to my colleague.
Thanks. So another program that we are running again this year, many of you would have been part of the program last year, I think. And so this is outside our grant stream system or program, I guess, system. The Youth Employment Program provides employment subsidies to organizations who are hiring youth specifically for trail-related work. The purpose of this program is to provide employment for youth facing barriers, but it's also to encourage more youth to learn about the trail sector, to learn about trail building, to be involved in hopes that they remain involved. The program will provide subsidies for employees who are between 15 and 30 years old. And one thing that's interesting to keep in mind about this is that it's not the same as the federal work subsidy where it's for students specifically. This can be people who are no longer in school. It can be for people who had to drop out in the middle of high school. It's for everybody that's between those ages. We'll provide a 50% wage subsidy, and we've increased the maximum from what it was last year. So it's up to $6,000 this year. So 50% wage subsidy up to $6,000. The program, it says here May 1st to March 31st, 2023, that should be. And so we haven't quite launched it yet. It should be launched in the next few weeks. Another thing about this program to note is that it's retroactive. So if in fall you want to apply to have the subsidy for an employee that you had in the summer, that's totally fine. The other thing is that it does last until next March. And so if you have post-season maintenance that you want to do, if you want to groom trails for cross-country skiing, for winter prep, that's fine too. And if you want to get the trail ready early next year, that works as well. So if you have questions about that, you can reach out to me. Yeah, that's that program.
Okay, the Trail Care Grant Program. I think everybody's familiar with this program. It seems to always have wonderful uptake from everyone across the country. So the Trail Care Grant Program provides funding to improve trail sections, support transitions between seasons, and to support volunteer activities on the trail, as well as to do volunteer appreciation on the trail. So both a spring and fall application intake happen. I believe Heidi referred to that earlier. This year, spring has already closed. And as anyone who applied will know, this year the Spring Trail Care Grant included a sponsor. So Columbia came on as a sponsor. And we are beginning to include sponsors as part of the program. This will enhance appreciation of our trail groups and the many volunteers, just as well as to make it a more robust program for those taking part. And we encourage everyone to take part. It is open to all trail operators. It is also open to groups who may get permission from a trail operator to apply. This may happen in a transition season, say from a summer to a fall to a winter transition. The application process is online again, but as with all other applications, please reach out if this is not going to work for you. But I can honestly tell you that the Trail Care Grant Program, the application process is as simple as can be. It's very quick. You don't need any overly particular information, just sort of what you would like to undertake as your activity. Probably one of the best things about this grant, no matching funding is required. We do encourage you, though, to read the guidelines. There are guidelines to the Trail Care Grant Program, and reach out. If you have any questions regarding your intended use of the grant, please reach out. In some cases, we may encourage you to apply under other grant funding streams for your project and to use this for something, I don't want to say a little more fun, but maybe a little more fun, maybe something in the form of volunteer appreciation. Just quickly, eligible trail activities, just maintenance activities, minor trail upgrade activities, and you can also use it towards trail cleanup days, volunteer training, things like habitat features, inclusion features, things like that. So something maybe outside a normal project.
Excellent. Thank you, Kristen. So as we wrap up here, I just wanted to acknowledge it again. It's been a key message throughout this. There's a bunch of staff that are available, and we certainly encourage you guys to engage us. But there's a few provincial partners that we have across the country. You can see the logos up there on the left-hand side. They have a very good kind of in-depth understanding of the trail process or the trail application process. Can certainly help with any questions that you may have that are more specific to the geography which you're in, permitting process, etc. So we would encourage you to also connect with them. As I mentioned earlier, there will be a follow-up email to this, and all of the contacts for the different regional provincial partners identified there will be included in that as well. So I wanted to take a quick moment to acknowledge, I guess, this webinar series itself. So this is under our initiative to really try to provide educational resources to the trail sector. Yes, this wasn't a webinar more specific to Trans-Canada Trail Program. However, our intention is to open up kind of the topics that are supportive and beneficial to the entire trail sector. At some point, there will be a launch page that will be established on the Trans-Canada Trail website. It will be an archive for previously recorded webinars, information on future webinars as well. And then there's a means to kind of get push notices so that you're made aware of the webinars as they're coming out, and even an opportunity for I guess, kind of support or requests for specific topics that might want to be identified. So I guess as people are answering this last poll, I'll probably just wrap things up. I think there's a few questions that might still be outstanding, so we'll give the team a moment or two to answer those. Not only did I wanted to, I guess, thank the staff and partners that have joined us on the call, but also everybody for attending this. This is lunchtime for some people, so I appreciate you taking the time to join the webinar. Hopefully it was informative. And as I mentioned before, there will be a follow-up to this. All of the information will be shared in a follow-up email as well as posted to the website, along with contact information. So if anything was missed, please go there and certainly feel free to contact us with any follow-up or questions you may have. And I believe that's it from a presentation standpoint. We'll remain on the webinar here for a few moments in case there's any follow-up questions that people may have. But thank you again, everybody, for joining.